Very quick. So, welcome to Black Disabled Men Talk. This month we're doing the Black Agenda. What is the Black Agenda? What is it? What's on it? If anything is on it. And we're also going to talk about these recent cases of Black disabled boys and men being shot by white people that don't get to the media, from South Africa to New Orleans. So let's go around and introduce ourselves. Start with Otis.
What's up, family? My name is Otis. I'm an artist out of California. Again, with what Black Disabled Men Speak. Is this going on our second year now, or a year and a half?
Yeah, I think it's a year and a half, I guess. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I've been with the family since the beginning. I hope to be with the family for the end.
You ain't going nowhere, bro. We got you.
Yeah. You're locked down.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, we got you.
Appreciate that, fam.
Okay, Keith.
All right, my name is Keith Jones. I am the alleged co-founder of Hip Hop Nation. One of the, so co-founder of Hip Hop Nation, part of Disabled Black Men Speaks. And every time we get to do this, the dogs start barking. But, you know, one of the things is that it's funny that we've been doing this for like a year and a half. And the fact that it seems like just now people are starting to catch up to the topic that we've been doing. No, I don't know if that's good that we were prescient or, you know, but that's me and the damn dog.
Who let the dogs out?
I still want my letters, but we'll talk about that later.
So I'm Leroy Moore. I'm a poet, activist, revolutionary activist. I don't believe in progressive, whatever. I think Donald Trump has ripped that up. So I'm revolutionary activist, founder with Keith Jones of Hip Hop Nation, author, and a lot more, but that's it. I want to go to Lateef McLeod.
I am Lateef McLeod and my pronouns are he and him. I am a PhD candidate in the Anthropology and Social Change program at California Institute for Integral Studies, and also the Vice President of the Lead Committee on the Executive Board of the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication until the end of September. I am also a writer who wrote 2 poetry books and am writing a novel.
All right, so people, the topic is, what is the Black Disabled Agenda? Do we have an agenda? What is it? But I want to start off, and I want, if people agree, to continue to start off with, like, what's in the news for Black disabled men.
Yes.
As you know, I've always been active around Black disabled people getting murdered by the state. Been doing that since '84, way before Black Lives Matter. But anyway, so I came across 3 cases so far of all Black disabled men who have been murdered by the police and like just white people passing by. The case in New Orleans, outside Trader Joe's, a Black disabled houseless man got abused and killed by a white man just passing by. And in South Africa, a black disabled early teenager was killed by police. And there's one more other case that I forget, another black disabled teen. Oh yeah, a black disabled teen was handcuffed. No, he wasn't even a teen, he was 8 years old. Handcuffed in school by police. So those are the three cases. Just want to know, what's your input around black disabled, especially black disabled boys and men constantly being abused or killed by the state and by people, So, plus, you can start, Keith, you can start.
Well, and to pull it back even more, it's not just black disabled boys or black disabled men. And one of the things that's so crazy about it, using a term, is that people always are like, oh, right. And so one of the things that I've hoped, because remember we went through, all the black folks went through the stage of being woke, right? Like, remember how long ago that was? That was like a year ago. Remember how long ago that was? Like, it was like just waking up and we're woke, right? But then now, and now we're marching and protesting in the fucking pandemic with masks on our face. But at no point has anybody ever said that this is not new. There's a reason disabled black people, even within the black community, end up dead. And casually nobody speaks about it. It's not, and at a certain point you can't, it's not that you're numb to it, you're traumatized. So there's no numbness no more. Like the non-emotional response is trauma. Because what in your mind as an adult in the profession in which you are to, quote, provide public safety, then law enforce, right? That says an 8-year-old needs to skip, right? That you need to skip over all of that and say, fuck it, put them in the handcuffs. Now, at a certain point, we can't, at a certain point, I don't, whether you are a quote activist or you're a social justice issue, at a certain point, you have to stop and say, none of this is endemic in nature. This is all learned behavior. So if you're going to learn how to treat me fucked up, you can unlearn how to treat me fucked up. You can unlearn how to not handcuff an 8-year-old, not walk by a homeless man or somebody who's unhoused and then kill them solely because because somebody told you growing up that the way they look deserves them to end their life. At a certain point, now, but humans are humans. And we will go through every kind of rationale to figure out why we shouldn't be smarter than what the fuck we are. So, I mean, my reaction is like, at this particular point, it's less shock and sadness. It's trauma. It's numbness. It's in it, but it ultimately turns into motivation, because that's why we are clearly talking about it, to take it to the level where we don't have to talk about it.
Okay, Otis, take it away.
I'm gonna do my best to add on to what my boy Keith said. Well, why do humans act like this to other humans? Well, the question becomes, what does it mean to be a human, essentially? As Sylvia Winters always point out, she always said, we have to redefine what it means to be a human, because under this system converted us into property. This system converted us into inanimate objects, right? But if you read Pedagogy of the Oppressed, it says that the oppressor dehumanizes himself by dehumanizing others, right? So, as once Bernard always pointed out, you gotta understand the violence that I inflict on others, I'm gonna bring that same violence home. You feel me? The same police that kill us in the street is the same police that go home and beat their wives and their
Yeah.
kids. Right? The same is true for the plantation. The same master and mistress that was beating us on the plantation was the same one that was beating each other as well as their children. Right? The same military that goes across seas to bomb people and invest in interests of corporations are the same military that come home and brutalize their family or commit suicide. Right? So this violence don't come out of nowhere. This dehumanization don't come out of nowhere. There's origins to this, right? And going back to what Sylvia Winter said, this is why before we do anything, we have to redefine what does it mean to be a human. Because as Keith said, this is not about the brutality against Black men or Black disabled children. This is about brutality across the board. The focus is on Black people, yes, be it Black disabled people, be it Black children, be it Black men, be it Black women. The target is us, yes, but all of humanity is objectified under this white terroristic system, right? That's why this is not about redistributing resources solely. This is about reshaping value systems. Right? You got an entire genocide going on in Brazil right now. You got an entire genocide going on in Venezuela, right? Like, how are these people able to mass murder these people by the thousands? Right? It's the same way they was able to mass murder us to build quote unquote America. The same way Britain was able to mass murder us by the millions in order to build the British economy. Like, there's origins to this. So I think for me, my objective or my agenda is to reshape how we define ourselves, not just how we redefine ourselves as Black disabled people, but how we redefine ourselves as Black people in totality. And as we redefine our humanity, we redefine or we allow the oppressor to reclaim their humanity as well if they want it, right? Because again, as I always tell my friends, they create a hell for us, but by creating a hell for us, they create a hell for themselves as well, right? Because in order to maintain my oppression and in order to maintain my hell, you have to live there with me too. Like the Stanford Prison Act, I believe, where they put students inside a prison to see how the environment affects them. It didn't just affect the students that pretended to be the prisoners. It affected the prison guards as well. So yes, I'm the prisoner, you're the prison guard, but look at the environment we're in. We're both in the fucking prison. What don't you understand about that? Right? Like you mad at Trump because he's talking about sacrificing elderly people to save the economy. They was talking about that even before Trump got in office with the disabled people in the elderly community. They was throwing our classes under the bus. They was claiming, well, we were sucking up SSI, wasn't that? Before they had that march on Wall Street, I believe it was the disabled community that was marching out there because they were trying to blame us for the economic collapse, right?
Oh,
so,
absolutely, and that's the whole everything about focusing on why we because think about it, when you just said redefine our humanity, right? Like that's the whole purpose. Like, what is the whole social justice movement? It's like it's one of these things that I've been like I ain't even gonna say struggling with. Like, I've gotten older now, and you know, I was rah gung ho at 30 and 40, but now at this particular point, when you stand back, and the fact that you say we have to redefine humanity, and people are resistant to it, because it means that if I see Lateef as a full-grown man, that means I have to deal with him as a full-grown man. Versus, and in order for me to deal with him as a full-grown man, because I carry all this bullshit bias, I'm making a cost-benefit analysis. It's going to cost me something in my soul to look at a man as a man. Because if it didn't cost me that, then we wouldn't be having these discussions. But they are making a constant cost-benefit analysis. It is cheaper in terms of spiritual energy, physical, monetary, whatever, to dehumanize you and to gain something and to kill you off than it is to just basically greet you at the same human level that I'm demanding of myself be treated as.
And they not even knowing that they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, because they want to run around here acting like, oh my God, fascism is here, fascism is here. Okay, but George Jackson told you that in the 1960s, right? So did Malcolm X. So did Franz Fanon, right? So did W.E.B. Du Bois, God damn it. Right, so this shit ain't new. You just discovered it. Shit, welcome to reality. But fascism have always been here, because as Franz Fanon said, what is fascism but domestic colonialism? So you cannot build a society, you cannot build a nation off of injustice and then get shocked when your nation experiences injustice or when that same injustice visit upon you. This is why our ancestors believed in treating everybody with humanity, even when that humanity risked our security, and even when that humanity jeopardized our own nation. Because we, as Dr. John Ely Clark said, we welcome everybody in while knowing their intentions. So we elect everybody in while knowing their intentions. They took our kindness for weakness, and they violated us and enslaved us. Like, we wasn't enslaved because we was weak and because we were stupid, and because how compassionate we are. Like when they talk about Christopher Columbus discovered Americas and stuff like that. And they're like, well, the Native Americans were just stupid. They should have never seen the white people as gods. No, maybe it's because the indigenous people recognize their humanity and they want to feed some fucking people. Instead of you being appreciative, you decide to commit mass genocide. Right? And you will come up with excuse, well, it's their fault for being stupid, believing they're gods. Right? So it's just like we got to redefine what it means to be human, pretty much.
Okay, so let's get Latif
I
in
think
here.
the murder of Black disabled people is a symptom of a severe reactionary turn in this country, and the people are reacting to the fragmentation of our current society by committing violence on those of us that are lower down in the societal hierarchy. So it is up to us to defend ourselves from this violence by any means necessary.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Amen.
Hell yeah. And when you stand back and you say, okay, right? So when you pose the question about Black disabled boys dying and Black disabled men dying, you would all, and it's sad that I can hear, well, what about Black disabled women, right?
Yeah.
Versus, there would be no Black disabled boys if they didn't have Black mothers.
Yeah.
Like, versus we see that the holistic part of our family. And if you really want to get real about it, this whole bullshit, this whole notion of how we have this construct of Blackness, it really is a construct of Blackness that we didn't even self-define. Like it's like our entire Blackness, at least on this half of the diaspora, is almost reactionary into somebody saying, well, if we call them niggas, and we say they only 3/5 of what they really are, and and my man said that she got a fat ass and some big titties, so he gonna give me $50 for her, which back now is about $200,000, or whatever the exchange rate would be. Like, that takes a certain level of comfort in your soul. That the same way they can look at somebody who uses an augmentative communication device, somebody who uses wheelchair, somebody who presents as, quote, non-disabled. It takes a certain kind of psychology in your brain to do that mental kind of contortion, to devalue my human nature solely so you could feel better about yourself. Like, that kind of contortion mentally is amazing to me. Right, so all right. So Leroy, when we got kicked out of the DNC, so Latif, you can blame your boy for that. I was minding my business.
Oh yeah.
I was chilling. I was being a good little Negro. I was like, yep. But it's like, if you're going to quote Blackness in America, right? Like, we talk about Blackness in America. One of those things is like, why are we defining ourselves as Black? And in the sociological term, if you get into the continent of Africa, it's not about your Blackness. It's about your tribe, your region. And so why is it over here that it has to be defined by pigmentation? And then and if you can really get that narrow, then me being crippled is nothing to kill me. It's nothing to be not mad about wearing masks. I ain't wearing no mask. We dropping like flies. But so I'm hoping that we as a people can really start to use the extent of our intelligence to see past my cerebral palsy, your disability, your socioeconomic status, because all of those are human constructs outside of the human condition.
All right, so let's get into the topic. Black Disabled Agenda. What is it? Yeah, I mean, Keith, you're running for president. It seems like all the presidential candidates have a platform on disability, on LGBT, and all that. So, I read many Black agendas from, coming out of different groups, and none of them talk about, disability. So, what is the Black Disabled Agenda? Is it needed? Yeah.
Okay, so Lateef, please be nice. Otis, please be nice. I'm just going to take a brief swing at this. So, because we all been Black and disabled for a very long time, right? Like we didn't just wake up and go, oh shit, right? So, is there a Black disability agenda? I guess, much like Otis said earlier, we have to define the term agenda, because there's the personal agenda, and then there's the professional agenda, and then there's the public agenda. So within the Black disabled community, I've been Black and crippled, I think, about almost 51 years now, and I have yet to see any solidarity outside of what I'm seeing on the screen in terms of en masse. And to be and to be clear, when we talk about disability and policy, all of that, there's the activist community, and then there's the people that always go to the organizational meetings. The ones that are taking $1. You didn't bring any sandwiches today, right? And then there's everybody that don't know what the fuck is going on. And so, is there a Black disability agenda? I would say there are Black disability agendas, and none of them are inclusive of us. So is one needed? I think in the construct of trying to move the social justice initiative forward, possibly, but I'm not just disabled. I'm a Black man. I'm not just a Black man, I'm a son. I'm not just a son, I'm a father. I'm not just a father, I'm a partner. I'm not just a partner, I'm an uncle, I'm a brother. I have a multitude of identities. So to be reductive of me just down to the state of my human condition and still ignore it. Hell yeah, we need one, because people are fucking crazy. Like, yes, we need one, because we shouldn't be worried about going to a march and they're like, well, Leroy, you too crippled to march. Because hey, Lateef, we want you to give a speech, but I mean, they shouldn't be surprised when you show up. If you're marching for Black lives, march for Black lives. If you're marching for life, you need to talk about the indigenous women that are disappearing. You're talking about life. You need to talk about the 39 missing children that they found while doing sweeps. Those are the kind of things that if you're going to talk about Black Lives Matter, you need to have the entire experience covered under that. That means no homophobia. That means no xenophobia. That means no pseudo-nationalism. I'm Dominican. I'm Trinidadian. I'm Brazilian. You need to be in the totality of the human existence if you're going to be Black. You can't pick I call this selective outrage. You're only mad when it's somebody that you feel that you have a connection to. And if you don't have the connection to Keith or Leroy or to Otis or to Lateef, us being shot to death in the street won't move you. Has anybody asked, with all the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd iconography going around on T-shirts and things like that, is any of that revenue that's being generated going to that family? The kid in South Africa, like, it's deeper than just marching. Like, you had a march on the anniversary of the March on Washington in a fucking pandemic. And you understand, and you're still not talking about disabled black men, disabled black women, disabled trans. Like, so is there a need for black agenda, black disability agenda? Yes. Should it be? No. But that's me hoping people use the gray matter that they got from God.
Huh.
So can I go next? And Otis, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so is there a black disabled agenda? Like Keith said, I've been around 52 years. I haven't seen one, you know, except the small circle that I run with. I don't see one on the national stage, international stage, you know, so yeah, so there's nothing out there. And you know, I want to be real, you know, last 2 years, the so-called disability community has been active around, you know, the political agenda on the physical arena, and now all of a sudden, you know, candidates have agendas, disability agendas. And, you know, I go through them a lot. And I come up with, like Keith just told me, like these people been in office for decades, and all of a sudden they have an agenda. It's like, yeah, and you know, for me, political agendas and campaigns is like Christmas Eve, and then the politicians are the little kids. You know, little kids will take anything to get that toy. That's what I see here. These platforms, these promises, is like a little kid saying anything on Christmas Eve to get these toys, but nobody's going back to the history. It's like, okay, Joe Biden, you've been in political office for 3 decades. You know, it's like 3 decades, and now you're gonna come up with an agenda? I mean, we should be laughing at that. We should be like laughing our butt off about that. But yeah, so you know, do we need a black disabled agenda? I don't know if we do. You know, because having a black disabled agenda is like we're asking somebody to do it. Why don't we just do it? You know,
Right.
to create an agenda, you create an agenda, you're putting it on the table with somebody else. So I say, you know, I said, no, we don't need one, but we do need one because we live in a capitalist society, and you know, organizations, you know, and politicians move that way. But I say that we just do it, you know? So yeah, so that's me.
Yeah.
Otis, take it away.
I believe we do need a black disabled agenda, but I always talk about learning from other movements' mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing is us falling into the trap of identity politics. So where you got black women thinking they need an agenda exclusive to themselves, black men thinking they need an agenda or vernacular exclusive to themselves, or black members of the LGBT community need an agenda vernacular exclusive to themselves, or even that's how ADOS and FBA popped up, where we feel like black America need an agenda exclusive to ourselves, as if America itself is not a big player in global colonialism, right? So what happens to us affects the entire globe, and the actions we choose to take have reverberating effects, not just in America, but in other countries with other brothers and sisters. So we have to be mindful of that nothing function in the bubble. And that's why I really appreciate Dr. Jared Ball book that I mentioned a lot, The Myth of Black Buying Power. Because he's talking about how our understanding of economics is shallow and short-sighted because we think it functions in the bubble. You got people, these black capitalists with their own agenda, talking about we gonna go buy some land over here and rebuild Black Wall Street. Okay, but if you're not importing and you're not exporting, how your economy gonna grow? Right? That shit is born to fail. So you're trying to tell me you will emulate a failed banking model because if you go copy Western banking systems, the shit is failing. That's why they got to pump $1 billion into the banking system every day since COVID-19. Right? So you want to emulate a failed banking model? What you think that's gonna do to you? Right? So I believe we do need an agenda, but we have to be mindful that we do not function in the bubble and that we do not get trapped in identity politics, right? We have to be inclusive. We have to understand that our reality is directly connected to Black able bodies' reality as well. It's connected to Black women, it's connected to Black men, it's connected to Black children who are not disabled, right? It's connected to Black people who don't even live in America. And we have to be mindful of the end objective. Like, if we do create this agenda, what is the end objective? Because like H. Rap Brown says, concessions is not victory. So you might get 1 or 2 trinkets here and there for what you request, but what is given to you could be taken from you. Okay, so you could be given something under whoever the next president might be, but what happens when you get a new president and then take the shit from you? This is why I also don't believe in disabled justice. I don't know how you brothers feel about it, but I don't believe that disabled justice exists. I believe it's just as ludicrous as racial justice. I feel like it's one of those terminologies that white people created, and because we didn't really examine the merits of it, we just ran with the shit, right? As far as I understand, either a society practices justice or it doesn't, right? You gotta understand, even when they passed the 88 laws, you had the civil rights laws, but they never enforced the civil rights laws. So why do me as a Black disabled person believe they're gonna enforce the 88 laws when they don't enforce the civil rights law, right? So, and then you gotta think about how many white women has been mutilated or molested by other white men and they don't get justice like Trump, right? Because white society, colonialism don't practice justice at all. That's the issue. Justice does not exist, period, right? And to me, that's why I promote Black politics, because Black politics is the opposite of that. White politics is colonialism. Black politics is anti-colonialism or decolonialization. That's why I really appreciate, shout out to Christopher Marshall, who always says, race, African in my race, Black is my politics, and nigga is my tribe. Because as H. Rap Brown said, Black is not a color, it's politics. It's the politics. Race is not African, right? You're African, that's a race. Black is politics. Black is political. So fuck Camilla Harris color. She ain't Black because her politics don't align with colonialized people. Fuck Obama. He ain't Black because his politics don't even align with colonialized people. Actually, he went completely against it. You know how many African people he bombed? He put Charlie Shakur on the terrorist watch list. How the hell is he Black? Because of skin color? So as Keith said, like, our understanding of Black gotta go way deeper than skin pigmentation. When I'm talking about Black, I'm talking about something completely different than what most people talk about when they talking about dashikis or the Black Panther or some shit they see on TV. Now we have to have a deeper understanding of what Black is and redefine it. As far as I'm concerned, that's my fucking agenda, redefining how we look at the motherfucking world and ourselves. Excuse me for cussing. As y'all can see, I'm on one right now. As y'all can see.
All right, Otis.
Otis is gonna put down.
Latif.
And you know, before we go to Latif, I won't get into it, but disability justice, you know, started with, you know, brown and Black people, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Lateef, take it away.
You're on mute, bruh. Buddy.
The Black disability agenda does not exist, but it should exist. And it should center what needs to happen to give full citizenship and human dignity to every Black disabled person, no matter they are women or men, gay or straight, rich or poor, and that has to look beyond the system, because this symptom system is designed to dehumanize us, and I don't think personally we can reform it to
True.
respect our humanity, because the system is designed to dehumanize us, and I don't think personally we can reform it to respect our humanity.
Bruh. It is so, when you, if you pull it back, right? So everybody, like, we're in the pandemic and we're talking about Blackness, disability, and you're right, because it's not, the system, the question I put up was like, how am I supposed to demand justice from a system inherently designed to be injustice to me? So if its inception is designed specifically to negate me, why would I then protest for it to then include me? Because no matter, if I'm saying, so, you know, and we'll use the statement Black Lives Matter, right? And I'm like, well, then the question I'm gonna fucking ask is, matters to who? It matters for what? Because I love basketball. I'm a Celtics fan, go Celtics. They getting tested every day, and they're using their platform for social justice. But the deeper question is, how is a private entity able to keep certain African Americans protected, safe, and consistently tested so that they can go to work and perform, when the vast majority of direct care workers, who are also essential workers, who are people of color, don't get shit? You can't get PPE, you can't get a mask, you can't get an N94 mask, you can't even get a fucking bus pass. So if you're going to talk about justice, what is justice? What, like if you say what, so what is it? Because in the Wild West, when the country stopped at the Mississippi, but you was in what would soon become St. Louis, there was no justice. You got shot. If you were below that and you were in Cherokee country and you were us, the Cherokee Nation were slave owners because they had a treaty. So what is justice? And if we're going to go with the common conception of justice in America as everybody getting equal treatment under the law, well, that would scare the shit out of me. Because they have proven to you that they will burn this motherfucker to the ground before they give us anything that's remotely equal to what they have. And when I mean they, I mean specifically even those who look like us. What's the old saying? Just because you my skin folk, don't make you my kinfolk. because then we shouldn't be having this discussion in the political season where you see clearly, Otis, when you talk about identity politics, I have no problem with anybody identifying themselves the way they identify themselves, because I don't want nobody having come in to tell me who the fuck I am. But in the process of political power in this system, what is the question? What is, because all like, well, don't run for president, because if you run for president, you're going to pull votes away from Joe Biden. You pull votes away from Joe Biden, we're going to get Donald Trump. Like, wait, let me get this right. Stop. Before you even go down the rabbit hole, how long has Section 4 been gutted of the Voting Rights Act? Like, Leroy, can you please answer me this one question? Tell me, what date did the United States Congress send a bill to the president's desk, pick a president, where he signed it and it said that the 1965 Voting Rights Act, or 64, the Voting Rights Act, is now permanently enshrined in perpetuity? I'm gonna wait.
No.
So what is justice? What is vote? Get out and vote. What is, the reason we call ourselves disabled is not because we woke up one morning and was like, fuck it, the way that I am, I'm disabled. We woke up being Otis, Leroy, Keith, and Lateef. The labels that we use to move through this society are labels that society has given us in order for them to get a handle on our humanity, and not a good handle either. So you know what I mean? Like it's almost comical because we're having an intellectual discussion about people who made stupid ass intellectual choices. So like I don't like you because you're darker than me, and so I'm going to do the most dehumanizing things to you based on that one superficial fact, and I'm going to construct an entire global economy upon it. So no, they don't have no fucking sense of giving us justice.
Well, I think we get on a treadmill because justice is, I'm just being point blank, justice is being white, wealthy, and a man. That's justice. I mean, come on, you know? I mean, look at O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson thought he got justice because he's wealthy and he's a man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody told him that he's black, but you know, once you get into the wealthy standard, it seems like you lose your blackness, you know. So, you know, OJ thought that, you know, he can get justice because A, he's wealthy, B, he's a man, and C, he rose to the level of white man.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what justice is being white, wealthy,
Yeah. Lateef, I got a question for you. So I'm curious, right? Now everybody, you know, we got the Breonna, because Breonna Taylor, if you read the original report and then they went back and read it, so it's anywhere between 7 and 8 shots that left her dead in her house. You know, the young man from Kenosha got 7 shots in the back and they left him paralyzed. Nobody is talking about what is going, you know, what it means to then become newly disabled.
Exactly.
Right. So let's see, am I crazy? I mean, don't answer that part. But am I crazy to think that people are not asking the right question in terms of, like, you know, like, yeah, he was shot against police violence, but the ripple effects of that police violence. Because everybody stopped the police violence. They didn't talk about the trauma inflicted on the kids, the generational trauma that will come from sorry about that. The generational trauma where the kids are going to say, well, how did granddaddy get in the wheelchair? Right? So now the lineage in your story is we were black in America, and as much as we are told that America's this is what happened. Am I missing something that nobody's having the deeper discussion about how that generational trauma, not only just the generational trauma, but what the family's going to experience now that they're in the world of disability? Like really,
Exactly.
really.
Exactly. There's no counseling. There's no peer counseling. There's no, you know, there's a cycle where people will become disabled. And we saw the difference between Chris Mayfield and Superman. You know,
Right.
Chris Mayfield went through the cycle and
Right.
came out as an activist.
Right.
Whereas Superman just like wanted a cure and stayed on that horse until he died. See, and then that's the thing. A lot of black disabled boys and men that get shot by police, gangs, and whatever. I see in East Oakland, they're on the same cycle as Christopher Reeves. They, the main thing is getting back to walking again.
Yeah, and it just that's why I had to ask the question, because it's one of those things you sit there and you go, and Otis and while Latif, while you typing, it's one of those things you stand back and you say, okay, because we can pontificate all day, right? Like we all it's safe to say that you are some of the most brilliant humans on the planet, and that's no bullshit. But the question I'm always posing to myself as we do the work is, well, not even the question posed to myself, because I got to the point where I'm sick of everybody. But are people actually looking for justice in order to end the search for justice, or? And I'm trying not to be a cynic, and y'all shaking your head already. Can I get to the question? But do you see how they do me? They already know. No. So because, okay. So I'm gonna try. Okay, let me pose the question and keep my cynicism to myself. Are they actually seeking justice, or is this? Because I'm always kind of like you had a march on Washington, seeking justice in a fucking pandemic. You had speeches, you had people taking pictures and all of this stuff. And yet and still, when you return home, you are now, even if you don't present, you are now asymptomatic. And since we are multi-generational households, who are the most susceptible? So am I crazy to think that people are not really looking for justice, or they just, I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Because it just seems like it's like there's always a shooting, there's always a protest, there's always an activist, there's always a lawsuit, and then we're on to the next. And Joe Biden issues a statement, the Democrats issue a statement, Republicans, like, I'm 50, I'll be 51. I don't ever remember this cycle not being this cycle. So maybe I'm crazy. So Latif, okay, don't answer that part. But am I wrong in thinking that they're not really seeking? I mean, the family, obviously, but like in the larger sense of the word, because like when they shut down the NBA, they were like, well, what is your plan? Well, we're gonna vote. We're gonna turn polling places. Okay, that's nice. But that's a halfway point in the process. Because Latif, if you go into the polling places, is it accessible? If you don't want anybody in the polling booth with you so you can fill out your ballot, is the ballot accessible? So what the fuck you telling me to vote gonna do if I can't even get into the place to vote? So am I wrong in thinking that people are not really looking for justice? But that's just me.
No, you not wrong at all. Actually, I want to read this excerpt from Pedagogy of the Oppressed, talking about what generosity really means in a system of injustice. Well, he says, Any attempt to soften the power of the oppressor in defense to the weakness of the oppressed almost always manifests itself in a form of false generosity. Indeed, the attempt never goes beyond this. In order to have the continued opportunity to express their generosity, the oppressors must perpetuate injustice as well. An unjust social order is the permanent fount of this generosity, which is nourished by death, despair, and poverty. That is why the dispensers of false generosity become desperate at the slightest threat to its source. So in order for Western nations to play the hero in quote unquote exploited countries, they like to call them underdeveloped. I'm not gonna call them underdeveloped. I'm gonna call them exploited countries. They
Yes.
have to undermine them. They have
Well,
to
that's-
kill like Kwame Nkrumah. They have to kill people like Toussaint, not Toussaint Overture, from Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara. Right? They have to kill people like Queen Yaba Shantiwa. Right? They have to undermine these systems that our African leaders put in place, these social systems that African leaders put in place for the vested interests of the people. Undermine them because they scared the people to control their resources. And you know, America will have to pay top dollar for any resources that now instead of stealing it, now they have to pay for it. Like what they did in Cuba. They trying to nationalize their resources so they post sanctions on it. Like they did in Jamaica. They were trying to put socialist systems in Jamaica, and then they came and undermined it. And now Jamaica got a falling collapse economy because it's exploited. It's what you call a commonwealth nation. And commonwealth, the only thing it means is a former colonial empire. And if you know anything about what flag independence means, it means it's still a colonial empire because the people don't really control their politics. It's puppets who are put there by Western forces. It's puppets who are put there by Western powers. And then you got white people in America, in Britain, in Germany, in Europe, wondering why, how could your leaders perpetuate that same injustice on you? How could your leaders sacrifice you to save the economy? When they have practiced that on millions of other people who didn't look like you, and just now they're bringing the terrorism home. Right? They have undermined African social institutions, African countries, and now you're mad because, or you're shocked that they're gonna sacrifice your grandma. Now you're shocked that they're gonna sacrifice your granddaddy. Really? They killed how many people to build your economy, and now you're fucking shocked like you're fucking with me, right? Right? And so no, we're not looking for justice. No one's looking for justice. They're looking to go back to what they said, go back to normal before COVID-19. And you know what that means. You know what going back, niggas still getting red line, still getting locked up, still getting shot, African countries still getting exploited, but at least white people can have a couple more dollars in their pocket. That's what they really mean. So as you said, what justice means for them, it means just them. They ain't looking for justice. Hell no. Hell no.
Okay, Lakeith.
If you notice, this country does not deal with disability well because people accept this narrowing of the possibilities of human identity where they can only conceptualize people as able-bodied so that people who have disabilities are beyond their imaginary. I am going to write an essay about this to explain this better.
Please, bro. Look, and please put it in 400-point fucking font so the world can see it. Cause damn it, bro. So it's almost like we've been doing this like you said for almost a year and a half, and now moving into a political cycle. So yes, I'm an independent candidate, blah blah blah. But what I've heard when I said that is, well, why? You know you're not gonna do it because if you do it, well, and then they'll say, well, maybe you should start at something smaller.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, let me get this right. So a white, and so never mind the white or whoever it is. So but because it's ubiquitously white. So unless you linked into a political family, or political power, you literally are not allowed to participate in the governance of yourself. And I to understand that that's what you're telling me. So fuck you, stay home, let somebody else determine my life. That is essentially what they're asking for people with disabilities to do. That is essentially because nobody's talking, I'm like, dude, nobody's talking about how they did their boy Michael Hicks, how they did their man.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about that.
Just
There's
move on.
the occasional tweet, the occasional hey, and then, you know, and even in these discussions, I'm like, that's every day. That ain't just yesterday, that's every day. The term is called medical bias, right? So if there's a sociological term attached to a human behavior that's been right, then so again, is there a black agenda, a black disability agenda? There should be if they're gonna keep kicking us out of being black, period. But right. So if there's a black agenda, but they don't have no disability platform, then does that mean that do we count it? So here's my question: are we black or are we disabled?
Yeah. I want to say that, you know, capitalism makes everything a job.
Absolutely.
So it is a job to oppress your own people. I mean, you got police, you got black police, prison guards. I keep on saying it, but I still can't believe it. It happened 3 years ago. I was downtown San Francisco, and I saw a Homeland Security van, and 2 black men were driving it. I was like, are you serious?
You do understand? Yes.
Just for a paycheck? I'd rather be on that society than oppress my own people. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing. Remember at the very beginning, I said the reason you're looking at this is because people are doing an ROI. They're doing a cost-benefit analysis and they're doing a return on investment. Is it more beneficial for me to expend my social capital on making sure my people are actually getting what they are supposed to get, like health, safety, food, shelter, joy, or do I need to get these shoes and keep my lights on? And it's never complicated. Like we are we are making decisions on us being here and putting this out. And understanding once this goes into the universe and people receive, we understand what the cost benefit is. Right? Like we black disabled men, and if we want to do X amount of things, somebody can easily go, oh my God, I saw your Latif and you were saying some very provocative things. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily know if you'll fit in right with that. But you know, I mean, you heard this shit. So if just the possibility of you not being able to see a regular paycheck is enough to scare you off, there is no quest for justice, right? So, and then if my friend asked me the other day, she was like, how are people who talking about Black Lives Matter going down and taking pictures of the homeless and saying these people are trash? Like, so again, if you can bifurcate your intelligence to dehumanize a person along a subjective line of reasoning, then who the fuck are you? Because that means you can easily look at me, you can easily look at those, you can easily look at Julie, or you can easily look at Otis, and solely upon your visual acuity, say them niggas ain't worth shit, kill them. Yes. Like that kind of, and so like at a certain point, it's one of those things where you sit thinking. It's where you sit back and you go, the NAACP, the Urban League, why I have a picture from 11 years ago where we had to issue a supplement to the State of Black America about Black disabled America because the Urban League didn't recognize disability. We're 50% of the community because 1 in 4 have a disability, and I'm pretty sure we got a mom and a daddy. So that puts us over 50% of the community. But these are so social justice is a sexy term, just like back in the day we had affirmative action was sexy. Like now the sexy term is intersectionality.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shoot myself in the face. Because as a sociologist, I understand it. But as a person of color, I also understand that there's nothing that humans can't do to humans that they can't stop doing to humans. And that means that if Lateef wants to go to a strip, look, if we go into strip clubs in Jamaica, so I'm just letting you know now. So if you got a good, so if you're married, just say it's Keith drugged me, he took control of the wheelchair and drove me into the club. I got you. But but even that, it seems like why is that so controversial, right? Because our humanity is confined by somebody else's perception of who we are. And personally, at 50, I got 3 girls coming behind me. I don't want them to ever have to be worried about the fact that they have breasts and a vulva, that their intelligence is deemed less than. And that, and it's by people who claim to have intelligence, which is the most ironic thing ever.
Okay, Lateef, you want to take it away?
You said what? I completely agree with King. And like I said, they're not really seeking justice. Cut it down. They're not really seeking justice. They're talking about going back to normal. Because
Yeah.
like, or we have to study the origins. Like what they want us to do, they want us to solve the problem in the middle of the math equation instead of the beginning of the equation, right? Like especially if you read Dr. I Need and you read Yoruba, well, she tracked the origins of dehumanization all the way back to Greek, right? So we're gonna talk about misogyny and anti-woman. What more civilization was anti-woman than the Greeks, right? We talking about people who created the word barbaric, and all barbarian means was those who didn't perpetuate Greek.
We lost you.
We lost you, all this.
Hold on. Hey, hold on.
We lost you.
That they were bringing alien philosophy. It was believed that they was corrupting the youth of Greece. Why? Because they was bringing something from outside of Greece, right? So when people talk about we're civilized, we can't be barbaric, we shouldn't be violent, we shouldn't be antagonistic to other people. Literally, the foundation, the Western foundation, is literally built off of antagonism. I am civilized because you are barbaric, right? I am a saint because you are pagan, right? I am intelligent because you are dumb, right? That's why they want to civilize in Johnny to civilize the indigenous ignorant people, the backward savage people, right? So we have to we have to deal with the ideology, we have to deal with the philosophy behind the Western society. We cannot just look at the police when they shoot a black person. We cannot just look at the media when they perpetuate anti-black imagery. We cannot just look at the church when someone goes vote for Trump. Like we have to actually look at the foundation that holds up all of these structures. It's ideology that we're really fighting. Like the physical infrastructure, that comes after the ideology is set. First, I gotta create the curriculum. I gotta come up with what I want to teach you, the purpose of what I want to teach you, and then I come up with the physical school. But before then, I come up with the idea. So why the reason why we're going in circles because we're not dealing with ideology and we're not saying Western society was built off of antagonism. Western society was built off of anti-blackness. It was built off anti-woman and was built off of anti-nature. And until we deal with that, we're going to keep going in circles. And white people go experience injustice just as much as we do, right? They go sacrifice your grandma just like they sacrifice mine, right? It's not new. And then it fall out the goddamn sky. This shit goes back thousands of years.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Oh, yes. Lateef, you want to say something or should I jump in? So I'll jumped in. Yeah, I just say amen, amen on that. And I also say that sometimes we have to deal with we're living under. I mean, we can throw out history and throw out oppression and all that stuff. And yeah, I do think we should take the time to really define terms and all that stuff. And I also think that we have to be honest and like we're under a capitalist, racist society. So how much work we have, 80 years on this earth. That's the work that we're gonna do and leave for our for other people to pick up. But I'm saying that of course we don't give up. We don't say okay we live on a capitalist, racist, sexist society, so we just get up and don't do activism, don't do nothing. But I also have to say that we have to be real about the oppression that we live under, and not only by the white system, but by the black people who got jobs in the system that oppress us daily because they have a 9-to-5 job. And facing that every day, it's hard. It's really hard, But yeah. But Latif, take it away if you're ready.
And we are approaching that fascist tipping point in this country where the violence against our subaltern populations is going to be completely legitimized. I just was arguing with someone who thought the Jacob Blake shooting was justified last week.
Oh, God.
God.
Okay. So, okay, Latif. Okay, wait, I'm sorry.
I just want to shoot people that do this there. It's like, okay, that's right. Bang, bang.
So, well, again, remember, humans have an incredible capacity to do mental contortions to justify whatever the fuck they want to justify, right? Like, we do it from the smallest to the largest things. But to argue with somebody who said it's justified to shoot a man in the back 7 times is almost like, you know what, do me a favor. Go see if the chicken is done by putting your face in the skillet. I need to go ahead and do that. I need to see it. Go ahead and see if the chicken done. Go grab it with your face. I need to see if it's done. Because so I had a call today, and I was talking. So I'm doing something in Wisconsin, and I reminded the person that this time 4 years ago, I was going to be in Wisconsin, and we were just on the verge of election of either Trump or Hillary. And I was with the Pantsuit Army. I love them, but that's what I was calling them. And they were looking at the results come in, and I'm like, and you could see, like, you could see the despair, like, sinking on them. And Leroy, it was one of those things like, this can't be my country. As they're watching the votes tally up, like, oh my God, Keith, and I'm thinking, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you cannot, seriously. You cannot act like this is shocking to you. Oh my God, there's no way they're going to. Yes. And when it happened, I said, let me explain something to you. You love whiteness over everything else. You love whiteness over your children. You love whiteness over your parents. You love whiteness over your feminism. You love whiteness over everything else. And more specifically, you love your whiteness because it is attached to a white man. And that's why you can vote for somebody who said, I grabbed him by the pussy. That's why you can sit here and be, cool with the fact that, oh yeah, there's like 50,000 people locked up now who were seeking asylum. That's why you cool with the fact that he can stand there and say, well, fuck it. It's a virus, but it's just a little death. Because the thought of losing the power of whiteness, and by extension, those who are connected to it, particularly people of color, right? Like, so when you say, well, how do you work for the man? Fuck it, I gotta look. I'm all for that Black Power shit, but my kids gotta eat. Right? I'm all for that Black Lives Matter shit. Yeah, I got you, but dog, my rent due. It's very reductive, and when it comes to and it's presented in the position of it's survival or my life, which is a weird juxtaposition, right? Because your survival is predicated upon you being alive. But if you're making choices to be a police officer, like, oh my God, Keith, you don't understand. What do you mean about the police? I'm like, okay, look, if a teacher walked around and beat the shit out of her kids every day, how long would she have her job?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Right. If every doctor was if every third doctor in the hospital killed their patients, how long would they be in the hospital? So when you and then when the fact that somebody took the time to garner support for a term called qualified fucking immunity means that there are people who intellectualize the brutality to be inflicted upon people and say, if you kill them because you were scared, fuck it, you got immunity. I'm sorry, the job by definition is dangerous. So how the fuck are you scared all the time that you gotta kill everybody? Well, then you don't need the job. And so this whole, and the larger conversation is not really about policing, it's about public safety versus policing. Because we understand that policing for Black and brown communities and First Nation communities is state-controlled terror versus public safety. For white communities, it's public safety and preventing those darkies and reddies and slaves people from bursting your serenity. And how we move in this shit is qualitative and quantitative. This is not hyperbole. This can be traced. This can be data correlated. Now, however you want to spend the fact is how you want to spend it, but the fact don't change. And so it's that, so now we sit here now, we're what, 90 something days away or 60 something days away from the re-election or an election, and they're asking us to participate and do these things, but they're not talking about how to have a vote safe initiative. They're not talking about how to ensure that even if, that what happened in Wisconsin over the summer doesn't happen now, where ballots just happen to wind up in a storage facility. And these are, so like I said, I got kids. So if my kids were doing this, as a parent, it's my job to correct them. These are grown-ass motherfuckers that are making cost-benefit analysis about their socioeconomic status and how to maintain that and the privilege that is attached to it, versus how do I make sure that Lateef can graduate and go on and get a wife and get kids? How can Leroy do what he wants to do? And people want to have these huge institutes and have day-long seminars about why we fuck that. It's either we want the crippled people to have what we have, but fuck that. I like my life. So if he dies, so be it. And
So David Chappelle and Chris Rock Saturday Night Live skit in real life Keith with the Clinton supporters.
If you go back and look at that video when I did in New Hampshire, when we did the presidential candidates forum, so everybody who was on TV now was there 13 years ago. So and the irony is, when they were talking about disability policy, Joe Biden showed up, knew nothing. Obama did not show up. You know who did call in? John McCain, John Edwards. Then this Crusaders, Hillary. showed up with her blue binder full of disability facts. No Obama, no Biden. And so when somebody says, well, no, you need to hurry up and be political and help us, blah, 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 you want me to cast a vote that you can't even guarantee I'll have the ability to cast. Unless I'm missing something. Well, what did he used to call it? Souls to the polls, right? How many accessible vans participated in Souls to the Polls? Mm. So how many Black churches are accessible? How many synagogues? How many mosques? So when it gets to this level, I'm not really interested in any more intellectual debates because it's not a fair fight.
I can't believe, but I can't believe once again we are talking about an election where people are dying every day. I like bump election. I don't care who's in office. I mean, come on, okay, we got a racist, sexist, ableist, whoever in office. And we're still talking about the I just don't understand. I mean, people are dying today, and we're talking about November.
Right. Yeah, I'm fried. Like I don't even know if I have. Like I do because it's a matter of making sure that I don't die because I got kids. But like there's like nobody's talking about we're not even talking about self-care. Yeah. Like there's no time for us to even as Black men as we talk about this or Black people or people in general to take a breath and say, damn. Like, nobody's talking about the fact that while this is going on and people are lusting after Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, one of their largest benefactors or beneficiaries, I should say, is steadily bombing the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Nobody's talking about all of those disabled people that will be resulted who are not killed from Biden.
And nobody's talking about like 500,000 people just got evicted in the U.S.
Evicted. Like at this particular point, it's like I love talking to y'all because you make me know that it's not just me. Like it's not just me. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, and when did you start making the calculation? Well, yeah, Keith, I know it's fucked up, and I know Joe ain't perfect, but he's better than the alternative. But he's not the only alternative. I mean, oh my God, how are you so proud of a democracy that you don't want to be democratic? Like, we are the greatest democracy on the world, except motherfuckers, you try to participate. We'll shoot you on the way to the poll. and if you try to turn out to vote, what we're going to do is we're only going to give you 4 polls out of like 20, and then we're going to run out of ballots 10 minutes into the election. I'm not fucking with y'all.
Well, the thing is how you kill stuff in capitalist society is you don't participate in it. So right. If we all stay on everybody, the elections be out of order. That's the thing that I keep on saying about Trump. If we all just ignore the fuck out of him, it'd be all over.
Right.
I mean, we live in a capitalist society. Play the game. Play the game. Can you imagine if everybody just stopped paying taxes? Everybody.
Right.
This country would crumble.
Oh my God. Well, I'm hoping that I'm gonna pose a question to Otis and Lateef. So I'm gonna do what I heard on the Zoom. So if you feel a little vomit come to the top of your throat, it's not my idea. This is what I heard earlier. So if you could wake up tomorrow,
Oh God,
you already know how they did it, right? But so because one of the things when they had the NBA, the shutdown, because remember the NBA shutdown was in response to Kenosha, right? But my question to the Milwaukee Bucks would be, yes, and even to the brother who got shot, who was chained to the bed up until they said, oh yeah, shit, we had the wrong warrant on him, so you can release him. My question to the community and to the family is that now, not even to the family, but to the community around him, will he be fully embraced now that his ability status has changed? To the Milwaukee Bucks, had he, now that he is now a person who's partially paralyzed or whatever rehabilitation he needs, will he be able to get that? Will, and not just specifically him, because he specifically was the one that garnered national attention. How many other young Black men in Milwaukee who are victims of violence, or in Wisconsin who are victims of violence, who survived, are receiving those services? Like, do I need to be shot and put on the news in order for me to be able to get some kind of attention that my life matters? Because we started this conversation with 3 Black men who are now dead. At the hands, and then you add in Michael Hickson, all various forms of violent death solely because of their disability and their silence. So when you say Black Lives Matter, whose life? It matters to who? It matters for what? Because Black Lives Matter is a statement. It's a movement, but it's a statement. And who are you making that statement to?
it's a hashtag.
Right, because I lived in Ferguson. When that stuff with Michael Brown went down, that touched me because I lived not too far from there growing up as a kid. That was the same city that I went in, and because I was disabled, I didn't know about racism in school, because if you were crippled, everybody went to one school. Right? So, but once 3 o'clock came out, I was a nigga and they were white.
Yeah. I feel like no, he's not going to receive any real, true transformation benefits. And the reason why I say that, because right now he's a spectacle. And I hate to deduce it to that, but that's what it is. Well, it garners our fascination for a few weeks. And then after the few weeks are over, we move on. Kind of like, may he rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, right? Like
Yeah.
it garners our fascination for a few weeks. And then after people move on, you no longer will see any illustrations about him. You no longer will see any real merchandise for him. You ain't no longer really care about the Black Panther movie until Black Panther Part 2 come out and Disney can monetize his death. So like right now, it's a spectacle. And that's why I like Frank Wilderson in Afro Pessimism, where he said we have to understand spectacles don't maintain white terrorism. We now white terrorism maintains white terrorism, meaning the politics your 7-year-old is taught in school is what maintains white terrorism. The value system you teach your children is what maintains white terrorism. You getting redlined every day, sapping what little wealth we do have in our communities is what maintains white terrorism. Why you being denied the job simply because of your name or your hairstyle, right, is what maintains white terrorism. It's the be now aspect of it. These spectacles where every now and again a Black person will get shot, or every now and again you hear of an extreme case of a Black person being brutalized. That's not what maintains white terrorism. Africa being colonialized, exploited, and being forced to pay colonial taxes is what maintains. A Trump individual was shot and killed. So when we talk about Black people receiving any real help, No, it's made a show. And then white people jump on the bandwagon. They do it just so they can feel good about themselves. So they could say, well, I'm not Trump. I'm not that cop. I'm not the
Right.
one who sustains this system. I didn't say the word nigga. But yeah, you benefit from it though. Right? In order for you to play the good guy, you need a villain. Right? Like, in order for the North to feel like the heroes and to feel like the good guys, it needed the South. But did the North not benefit just as much as the South did from slavery? Like, how else would you have the Industrial Revolution if it wasn't for slavery? Britain is the same way. The only reason why Britain makes slavery illegal before the U.S. is because most of their colonies was outside of Britain. But did they not benefit from slavery as well? And even these European countries that Black Marxists like to point to about how we need to emulate them, how they have a more humane system than we do. Okay, but do they not get their money from the World Bank? And do the World Bank not get their money from colonialism? So yes, they have a mixed economy. They have quote unquote capitalism mixed with socialism. But the only reason why those people in Germany, Norway, and whatever European country you're talking about have those social benefits, it's not just because they're willing to pay more in taxes. It's because they're benefited from the subjugation of people from other countries. If it's not their system, then it's their companies. How many companies are benefited from cheap labor in China? How many companies are benefited from child mining in the Congo, right? And then you
Right.
wonder you wonder how they are able to bring this humanity back to your doorstep. Because as Frantz Fanon said, the violence you inflict outwards will eventually come back to you. It will eventually come back home. Like they have practiced this in humanity long before Trump. They have practiced this
Yeah.
in humanity collectively on millions and millions of people. And now just because you're white and now it's happening to you, now all of a sudden I gotta pretend like it's new. Now I gotta pretend to be shocked. Like that, to me, that's an insult because that's you ignoring my entire reality. So you're ignoring 400 plus years of subjugation just to say this fascism is new just because now it affects you. Because now you don't have no money in the bank. You gonna overlook the fact my granddaddy didn't have no wealth coming from being sharecroppers. And the little wealth he did try to accumulate, he was constantly undermined by legislation. Right, so you'll completely overlook my entire reality just because it's happening to you, and you go turn around and pretend to be my friend. No, F you, because you don't give a damn. You just want to be comfortable.
Well, I'm gonna let you know I have 2%. So if I go dark, it's not that I don't love y'all. It's because I got no power or not.
Okay, I mean, we can end it. I mean, Latif, you have something to say? We can end it after Latif. We've been here for an hour.
I told you it's one of those.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, like I said before, this culture does not understand or fully accept disability, so Jacob Blake will get a little attention, but they will eventually forget him unfortunately, because they are not accustomed to talk about or really dealing with disability in a substantial way will get a little attention, but they will eventually forget them, unfortunately, because they are not accustomed to talk about or really dealing with disability in a substantial way.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, and to be fair, not fuck fair. It's one of these things like somebody will hear something that we said there. I can't. I'm so upset. Like you not like if you only are reacting to the trigger, that means you're listening to react. You're not listening to understand. And at this point, you know, because one of the questions I would ask is that, you know, we talking about this Black love and Black lives, and then why is it so difficult to be disabled and have a relationship? Why is it so difficult to be disabled and be seen as a productive member of the Black community? Why is it so difficult to be disabled and be seen as not a superhuman? And why in a community that traffics, trades, and exists in its suppression, turn and then inwardly oppress its own people? So that be said, I love you all, man.
That say good night, people. Thank you so much. Thank you, brothers.
Yes.
See
Stay
you
safe
next
out
month.
there, cause the Rona is looking for sexy Black men to take down.
No.
So watch out for Rona. All right. Holla at me, yo.
All right. See you, Otis.
See you.